The drone strike on the Jammu Air Force Station is a reminder that the battle against terrorism is constantly evolving. The nature of the threat itself changes. Technology, training, surveillance, and the ability to retaliate when necessary always needs to be one step ahead. The drone strike comes at a time when there is peace along the line of control, after more than a year of some of the most intense duels, which really begs the question, are these efforts an attempt to try and end the peace that we have? Joining us now, the senior officer with the awesome responsibility of maintaining peace along the line of control and the Kashmir Valley, Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, the Corps Commander of 15 Corps in Srinagar. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. So how serious is the threat of the drone strike in your area of responsibility? Obviously, it's a concern for everyone. How do you view this new threat which has emerged?
Well, Vishnu, firstly, it's great to see you after some time.
Yes, it is, sir.
I must share as a starting remarks that possibly the security situation in Kashmir Valley today is possibly at one of the best times in the last about 5 years, with all the security parameters showing very, very great positive trends, in spite of some strikes which have taken place by the terrorists in the recent times. But when you compare it in terms of last about 5 years, we find that ceasefire has sustained on the line of control, and in the hinterland, the terrorist-initiated incidents and TCAs have come down drastically. Overall, the security parameters remain very, shows great positive trends. Coming on to the question specific about the drone technology and drone threat, in Indian Army, we have been cognizant of this developing worldwide disruptive technology, which is now being utilized both in the realm of conventional and sub-conventional. Conventional, we have just seen in this recent conflict which happened in the CR region. And of course, at a number of times in last about 2 years, we have seen strikes having taken place in the sub-conventional domain as well. So while there have been systems in place, but this recent strike has definitely asked us to carry out a more deliberate and focused effort towards tackling this threat. We are well aware that these assets, the technology to support drone warfare, it cannot be just made on the roadside. These are state-supported systems. These technologies are available with state systems. And this support which is there of state sponsors are definitely with Jaish and Lashkar. So while we are aware of these threats, we have taken much advanced measure in the last few days. We have reoriented ourselves to look after these threats onto our important installations within the valley itself. This threat is live. It is going to be keep on increasing, and we have to stay some steps ahead to definitely counter it, take control of these drones which carry out a strike into our sensitive areas and installations. We have got some local systems available, but yes, as a entire army, we are looking at very, very proactive solutions on this subject, and I'm very sure that we'll be able to take care of this challenge as well.
General, is it your belief that this is an attempt to disrupt the peace that you spoke about along the LOC?
Yes, this is the enemy across, while may shake hands for ceasefire to tide over his internal challenges and such like things for a period of time, but his basic orientation towards centrality of Kashmir and we as being their primary competitor, which he feels so, will always remain. And therefore, I think every time when there will be a greater stability within the Kashmir Valley, in Jammu and Kashmir region, we will see the parameters of violence coming down. You will always find introduction of new systems, new players, new actors, which will continue to come up. So this is the next level in which there is a greater deniability. There is a attempt to say that there is possibly internal and such like things. But we know where the idea is coming from, where the support mechanisms are coming out, we need to keep this watch on, and we need to hold them responsible.
General, did these drones, to the best of your understanding, fly across in that area, or were they locally operated? Because that's obviously something that in your area of responsibility would be a similar threat. You know, either it flies across, which would imply it's larger, more sophisticated, or if it's locally, then you would need to tackle it at a different level.
So please understand that firstly, this investigation is already ongoing. To comment upon prematurely may not be very correct. But when we carry out the analysis, the capabilities and capacities exist to carry out modification on commercially available drone systems, which are quite locally available as well. With certain degree of guidance from state actors, they can be modified to carry out these attacks locally. So the ranging from 5 kilometers to 15 kilometers to a longer ranges, these capabilities exist all across. It just requires certain degree of ingenuity and innovation to use certain degree of explosives and breach the installation security systems and come across and carry out these strikes. So while everybody is quite alert and sanguine of this challenges, but these will be able to reach at some places or other. But yes, we need to be aware. We need to look at technologies which can take control of these drones. They may be quadcopters, they may be standalone flying drone systems and such like things. But we need to have those systems in place, and I can assure you that we are working on it.
In fact, we just had a picture of that DRDO designed drone. I think it was deployed on Republic Day. That's one of the technologies available for you already in India. The real worry, sir, of course, are drone swarms. Typically, and it's evolving technology, low level, but there is an element of coordination between drones. The idea being to maximize or to saturate a target with drones. Again, is that something that I know you're aware of, or the system is aware of, but what sort of threat would that represent?
Well, look, when there is a new technology in place, everything is on the table. And but currently, I can assure you of the valley per se. The major important aspect is about the int part. There is a certain degree of synergy which is required to be done with the police, with civil adam and such like things, in which there is a requirement of carrying out data mapping. You require to have to find out who all have ownership of such drones or quadcopters in the area. We need to have systems in place wherein we ensure that such like facilities or systems are not allowed to be used in the proximity of sensitive installations and such like things. So while all these things will remain on table, starting from single piece of intruding system to a strong system. But currently I feel that challenge immediately may not be pertinent here in our scenario. More so with the great synergy which we have with the civil adam, the police and the local CAPF forces, which we are carrying out actually a saturation of the areas around our sensitive installations. So while the technology may be existing, capabilities may be existing, but the swarm thing is slightly way off as of now.
Okay. Now, General, let's just talk about your area of responsibility. Now, I think it was the Army Chief and the Army Commander who said that the onus of holding the ceasefire is on Pakistan. Thus far, do you believe that ceasefire is holding, that there may be some forces which may be beyond the Pakistan Army which are doing this drone business?
Look, I will not like to detach the accountability and responsibility on these drone systems from Pakistan per se. There will be reasons of deniability, but frankly, the control and levers continue to exist across the border. And that responsibility will always be resting at that location. It starts in the terms of radicalization, it starts in terms of proliferating and trying to control elements on this side. It continues within the realm of funding, which is greatly under control because of very, very proactive actions taken by the government of India and NIA to ensure the state funding reduces. The realm of narco-terrorism is under great control because Jammu Kashmir police has been quite proactive, picking up elements which are supporting this network of narco smuggling, which enables and funds the terror support infrastructure which continues to exist in Kashmir Valley or Jammu and Kashmir per se. But coming on to the issue of security, the line of control ceasefire aspect as well, I must confess that it has been holding. The people across have been holding their end of the bargain. We also continue to ensure that ceasefire holds as far as they hold their part of bargain
Yes.
On the table. They continue to behave on those lines. That is, they need to continue to reduce and give the signatures that they are not going to be supporting the terror infrastructure in our country. But the biggest beneficiary, I must tell you, of this entire ceasefire has been our own people across along the border, along the line of
Yes.
control. Because, frankly, every time when there was an invitation to be supported by the people across, they targeted the civilian population, and when they got punished, they further targeted our own people, because they understand that Indian Army is much, much more worried about our own people which are on this side of the border, this side of the line of line of control. And therefore, for us, I think it was a great step to ensure that we took forward this request from the people across for maintaining ceasefire for some time.
Sure.
And let's see how it happens.
Right.
But yes, this will fit only till the time a major strike does not take place. We must continue to hold them responsible for the support of terrorist infrastructure.
That's a very important point. General, one or two other questions. Online recruitment on terrorists. It's been a problem in the past. What are some of the trends that you're seeing now?
Vishnu, it is very simplistic to say that there is an online recruitment taking place. I've been here for multiple tenures, and what I see is without that support infrastructure, without that, I divide this terrorism word into two parts. One is the terror, which is terrorist, and one is the ism part. Till the time this terrorism part, that support infrastructure is live, the online is only a modality or a method of identifying people who are ready to be recruited. There is a system in place. There is an OGW network which continues to be in place while it's been targeted quite vigorously in last about 2.5 years, and continues to be done so. But yet there are people who are white collar, who continue to live in high end of the society. They are working in government and other places. They are running businesses, but they are the ones who run this infrastructure. And they are the ones who identify a youth who is either disgruntled, who has got certain challenges, who has got some personal issues, who has got an issue of maybe drugs, who is isolated, who's got a family challenge, and they select very, very vulnerable youth who can be thereafter matched with a weapon whenever it comes into the system.
Yep.
And that is where the recruitment is taking place. But please understand that online is also one of the means of identification. But yes, on ground, to clarify, to confirm that X, Y, Z as a young youth is a ready material to be matched with a weapon and thereafter he becomes a terrorist, continues to be done by the infrastructure which is in place here.
Right.
And therefore, that remains a challenge and our target.
Right.
But also, I must add a point here that please understand that while Pakistan has been exposed as supporting the terror and terror infrastructure and terrorists all across the world, but in Kashmir, primarily what's happening is that they are trying to have a long-term strategy by showing that it is an indigenization of a movement. And when a youth, either through online or through identification on the ground, becomes a recruit and he is neutralized, you imagine that we as security forces alienate a segment of society which is near and dear ones of this youth.
Right.
And therefore, we continue to look forward for a multi-tiered response. That is, first we need to isolate the ensure that they don't become a terrorist altogether. So there is a system in place with the civil atom, with Jammu and Kashmir police, with our security forces grid, which is working. We have been able to take out a large number of youth last 2-3 years from the circulation and from the target of the infrastructure,
sure.
the terrorist infrastructure, which recruits and puts the weapon in their hand.
Right.
The second is, if you have seen in the last about 2 years, we have ensured that people, even in live encounters, the families have reached out to us, the wives have reached out in different districts altogether to the nearest company commander or to the DSPO or to the police, that my family, my husband or my child is in an encounter site, is under threat and his life is under threat. It is requested that you kindly take a surrender. And number of instances we have realized that we have been able to take out the surrender. Trust me, each and every youth who's saved and taken out, especially the local youth, when we take him out, we save a family, we see the happiness and joy in the eyes of the near and dear ones. That is what warms our heart. While we are soldiers, for us, violence is our basic parameter to carry out operations. But trust me, our young company commanders, the young policemen, young security forces, people who are at the front of this CICT operations, their best achievements are, which they claim and they talk of, is when they take out a young boy out of the clutches of the terrorists who are denying him the opportunity to surrender. There have been instances when a young terrorist is coming out, youth is coming out for a surrender, he has been attacked by the older terrorist who is inside the inside the house.
Yeah.
So these are our challenges we are dealing with, and I'm sure that our efforts will yield fruit, and the civil society will understand
sure.
that this online radicalization, the radicalization by the infrastructure will be contested by our civil society, and we may be able to ensure that there is a durable peace comes into Kashmir.
Now that's so important, that this entire point that you're talking about bringing away young people from terrorism. One final question, very briefly, running short on time. I think one of the finest things that the Army has done in the last 1 year is to vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. Of course, in the case of the Indian Army, if an order is given, that's it, you do vaccinate. But I think it sends a very strong message to people across the country. In your area of responsibility, can you describe how effectively soldiers, men and women, have been vaccinated in the Army?
Yeah, this is a very good one, good question, Vishnu. This is a time of national and global challenge in terms of management of COVID challenges. But, you know, for Chinar Corps, for 15 Corps, which is deployed in Kashmir, our challenge was not, our focus was not only force preservation. Of course, that was a primary concern. But please understand that we live amongst the people. We live amongst the Kashmiri people who are our mainstay. We are moving through them. We are working through them. We are working with them all the time. So we had to look at two different parameters. One was to ensure force preservation, which is the order of our chief. And our forces, our troops, while deployed in contact operation with civilians, managing in hinterland, road opening parties, contact with, at multiple levels we are contacting with the civilians and like things. To the extent that our line of control deployment, high altitude areas where barely our choppers could reach, we had isolated posts where we required to reach out to them to vaccinate those soldiers, men and women in uniform. We were able to do with a very, very great concerted effort. But while doing so, we have achieved nearly 99%. Only those people who are having reasons of medical reasons for which they can't be vaccinated are the only ones which are left out.
So 99% with 2 doses? 99% with 2 doses?
Yeah, nearly 99% with 2 doses. In fact, just about the second dose, we got about, I think about 2% are left out.
Right.
Of our.
That's fantastic, sir.
Because of it is, yeah. So we have, in fact, in the entire Northern Command, the control and the levers has been led by our command headquarters. And we were possibly also, because we were the first recipients of, so I'll not like to take the entire credit for Chinar Corps, because we were the ones who got the vaccines first as well. But what I will definitely like to highlight to you, Vishnu, is that we actually reached out along with the civil adam to ensure that Kashmir per se had the least number of hits in terms of COVID casualties. That also happened because while the civil adam was quite proactively engaged since last year August, which I have seen that in Kashmir, in fact, all our oxygen plants were already up and about functioning when the second wave hit, whereas in rest of the places, people are still struggling for oxygen plants. We were filling in oxygens from here and sending across elsewhere for supporting the oxygen deficiency.
That's very interesting to know.
But,
yeah.
The more interesting part is that while ex-servicemen all over the place were trying to come out, the ex-servicemen here, we took off the entire load of ex-servicemen from the civil adam. We reached out to our Veer Naris, to our families, to our ex-servicemen. We vaccinated them also, and we use our ex-servicemen. They came up on forefront. We had nearly about 1,000 ex-servicemen who registered, 250 plus ex-servicemen utilized by Divisional Commissioner and complemented in various levels in hospitals and such like places to support the civil infrastructure. And we also offered and used, in fact, a number of such facilities which are held jointly by us to enable the civil adam to look after the civilian COVID positive cases to be managed who were in a slightly risky zones. And I think all in all, Kashmir, because of a very, very joint and synergistic effort, we were able to deliver during the second phase.
Absolutely, sir. And I think that's just, it's so welcome to hear. And I think it's just that encouragement which people need to hear, that 99% plus, that's pretty much all of the army in Kashmir. Some people will never get vaccinated for whatever the reasons are. But it's such a great sign that, you were able to do that. But thank you so much, General Pandey. It's always wonderful speaking to you about this, not just about vaccination, but obviously this new threat of drones and maintaining the peace, which is so important. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us.
Thank you, Vishnu. Thanks a lot for the time. Thank you.